I am a therapist, a mental health therapist, and listening really deeply to people of both ends of the political spectrum, and trying to understand their fears and concerns. So this video is a slightly humorous way of approaching my understanding currently of the political divide in our nation at the moment. Hello, I'm a blue sock puppet. Well, I have a lot of colors going on, but we'll ignore that for now and I'll just be blue. Hello, I'm a red sock puppet. I have some interesting patterns going on and some diversity, but we'll ignore that for now and just say I'm red. Have you noticed there's some really big problems in our country? Well, yeah, but have you noticed that this country works better for more people than any country that has ever existed in human history ever? But when it doesn't work, it's really bad. I mean, look at the 400 years of racism in our country. It's really ugly. So, yeah, but there are still good parts. I feel like you're not really listening to me. Because, see, our founding fathers did a really big and beautiful thing in creating this nation. It's practically a miracle. Our founding fathers were racist. Now you're being offensive. I'm just telling the truth, but not the whole truth. Why can't you acknowledge the things that are good about our country, the things that work for most people? Why can't you acknowledge the things that are really, really bad? I feel like if you can't acknowledge the good things and you want to make change, the changes you're going to make are going to undermine the parts that are actually good. And that's going to be disastrous. Totally throwing out the baby with the bathwater. I feel like if you can't acknowledge the bad things, you are willfully ignorant and, in fact, a racist, a homophobe, a xenophobe, a misogynist. Whoa, 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 stop calling names. I don't hate black people or women or anything like that. I'm happy to let you live your life over there if you just leave alone the most sacred foundations of our country. You mean sacred foundations like slavery? Of course not. Slavery was wrong. But don't you see the systems of oppression that continue to be perpetuated? I find it really difficult to have a conversation with you when you're calling me names and making such horrible assumptions about me. I find it really difficult to have a conversation with you when you persistently refuse to acknowledge the horrific nature of our problems. Yeah, they're horrific, which means that by nature they are hard to look at. But that's my life. By saying that you're not willing to see them, you're invalidating me. So there may be some truth to that, but you're also ignoring the things that are good and need to be protected. Change. Change at any cost. Now you're terrifying. Change. Terror. Change. Ah! I think I won that debate. So have you noticed that people other than white men have been disenfranchised for most of our nation's history? There's clearly some white male privilege going on here. So I'm a white man and I'm having trouble putting food on my family's table, so not so much feeling the privilege. I mean, if you look at the institutions of power, they're almost all made up of white men. Yeah, but that's not helping me that much. And if you look at the way everyone else's voice has been undermined, then you're really starting to see a pattern. Oddly, I'm feeling like my voice is being kind of undermined here. I live in a rural community and the only jobs are food production or processing. We used to have decent manufacturing jobs, but they've disappeared. I'm really, really struggling here. Oh, so you live in a rural community. You must be aware of how much our environment is in danger. Actually, mostly I'm aware that you keep throwing more regulations at me, and my life was almost impossible already. And you want your food both cheap and perfect, and have no idea how food production works. You're a white man, you are privileged, and you need to acknowledge that. Have you been listening to me at all? White people are privileged. So now you don't even acknowledge that my struggles exist. And any white person who is not actively working against white privilege is complicit in it. Since you cannot acknowledge I exist, other than to make me out to be an evil person, and can't acknowledge my problems at all, I'll find someone who can. So clearly the thing to do is dismantle the current institutions of power and start over. Whoa, I'm back to your terrifying. And I'm going with Trump. What? Trump. But, yeah, definitely Trump. Have you heard how xenophobic and racist, and have you seen how he treats women? Your narrative privilege completely ignores the realities of my life, so have fun dealing with the president who will acknowledge me. Ah! I think I won that debate. So if it's not clear from my sock puppets, neither side is actually winning this debate. It's been really destructive for everyone. After listening to both sides pretty extensively, I do believe that some big changes are needed in our country, but I think they need to be implemented really carefully. The need for change is evident to me, but figuring out how to implement positive changes requires some really cool-headed balanced thinking, which seems in short supply. I studied sociology in college, and one of the lectures that stuck with me from more than 10 years ago was about how often our legislation has unintended consequences. Something is put in place to try to address the one problem, and creates a whole new set of problems because of the realities that it didn't consider. I hear the law of unintended consequences at work from both sock puppets. This suggests to me that we need to slow down and really think carefully about the changes we're going to make so that they actually work. I know that's really difficult right now. Things have gotten really heated, and the more heated they are, the harder it is to really think carefully and clearly about anything, except the arguments that will reinforce our own narratives. Both sides are feeling unheard and unseen, and that is a really bad basis from which to have any kind of conversation. And both sides are right. The things that are bad in urban America are really, really bad. The things that are bad in rural America are really, really bad. And the people in the suburbs are getting a crick in their neck trying to look back and forth so quickly. So what do we do about it? The one thing that has worked in our country is that solutions are hashed out not by ignoring either side, but by including both sides in awkward but surprisingly functional compromise. That's why we have a Senate and a House, so that states are represented equally and populations are represented accurately. That's why we have constitutional amendments protecting the right to protest peacefully and the right to carry guns. Brothers and sisters Americans, my plea is for all of us to slow down and calm down and try to think so that we can build change that does not undermine what is good and what is well built. In the process of throwing stones at each other, we're all damaging things that are precious, starting with our closest relationships. I pray that in this COVID reality, when many of us have extra time on our hands, we can slow down and really think together about how to build a more perfect union. And yes, that requires really listening when the realities we're hearing challenge our own narratives. Yelling louder, calling names, and defriending each other on Facebook isn't going to do it. In fact, almost nothing good seems to come from Facebook posts on politics. Let's have direct conversations with people we care about, and remember to treat each other like we care about each other. I encourage us to slow down and try to understand and honor each other in the midst of our differences as we find our way to a more perfect union. And this 4th of July, I acknowledge the real struggles on both sides of the fence and pray God's blessing on you, whether you're liberal or conservative.